Welcome back to the Messianic Hour. I'm your host. This is Rabbi Scott. There's a special edition of the Messianic Hour. We're talking to our friend and fellow Messianic Rabbi, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. He is out of New Jersey, and he has the author of a great book, The Harbinger, and we've been talking about some of the events that took place here in the United States that fall in line with Isaiah chapter 9, verse 10, what happened to Israel when it went against God's will, and how we're seeing these same things take place here. I want to encourage you to go to his website that we have listed on our website there, and you'll be able to also get it from Jonathan again when he comes back. I'll have him give it to you once again, and you can order the book at Amazon.com, all the different places like that. But you can go to his website and get more information about some of the background of what's going on. This actually vision you had a number of years ago, Jonathan. When did you actually get this vision? It wasn't this book's been several years in the making. Is that correct?
Well, we live up, as you know, we live by Ground Zero. Well, we live in New Jersey. When this thing happened, we could actually see it happen. My wife was supposed to be at the site at that day, but her schedule got changed. She was supposed to be, and so were several other people in the congregation. So when it happened, I prayed, and I got this. I was led to this section of Scripture that included this verse and included this moment, this crucial moment, critical moment in Israel's history. I found out later on that David Wilkerson, Times Square Church, he was praying for, Lord, what's your word? And he shared to his congregation this same section and said, this is the word for America. Now, he didn't see the Harbinger. He didn't, things were revealed later, but he just got it from the Lord. And a little while later, I'm standing at the corner of Ground Zero, and I see an object. It was actually the tree we just spoke about, and something says you got to follow this, and it started opening up. It was the beginning. It was like the first puzzle piece of a biblical mystery that kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I didn't even realize where it was going to lead, and it kept getting blowing me away. And so I was led later on to put it in a book form. Every time I talked about this, people were like, "Whoa, this got to go out." And so I put it in a book form, and then came the economic collapse, which is the second part. And then basically it just came out really just recently, and I had no question that God wanted this out, and but I was shocked. They told me that the first week it became a New York Times bestseller. So
that's amazing.
I know it's from the Lord for now.
And even to have, as a Messianic rabbi, be able to have this vision and be seeing what's happening, you're bringing the scripture from the Torah, from our ancestors into the modern day, and you're seeing the parallels. We've talked about the first couple harbingers. Let's look towards some of the latter ones. Tell us a bit more about them.
Yeah. Well, we did the sign of the sycamore. And if you go down, and it's an amazing thing, Scott. It's like you go word for word, and it happens. Then it says in ancient Israel, when the strike came and the sycamores were cut down, they said in Isaiah 9, the sycamores have been cut down, but we will plant cedars in their place. In other words, again, God, you're not going to humble us. We're coming back stronger with it. We're going to plant a stronger tree. We're going to come back. The nation's going to come back like this cedar tree. We're going to be stronger. And so what they do is they remove the sycamores that have fallen, that have been struck down, and they specifically plant this other tree in the exact spot as a sign of defiance. Now, the tree in Hebrew, we read cedar, but the tree in Hebrew is called the erez tree, and that can include a cedar, but it actually means a conifer tree, or most accurately is the panacea tree, which is this conifer pine evergreen, which includes the cedar. So what could this have to do with 9/11? And the sign, the seventh harbinger is the sign of the erez tree, that this specific tree would have to be planted in the exact spot of where the sycamore had fallen. Now, nobody's trying to do this. I mean, it's just these things are just happening. So what happens 3 years after 9/11? In the sky appears a tree, and it appears at the corner of Ground Zero. It's being lowered to the ground on a crane, and it's being lowered into a specific spot. They're lowering it to go into the exact spot where the sycamore of Ground Zero had stood. As it's an ancient act. In Hebrew, it's called the act of chalaf, which is the replacing or the replanting of. That's used there. They're performing this act. They put it down in that ground. What kind of tree is it? It would have been natural to restore another sycamore tree. It's not a sycamore. It is an evergreen tree. It is a conifer tree. It is a panacea tree, the biblical Erez tree, the exact tree of Isaiah 9:10. They perform the exact act. Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody realizes what they're doing. They have a ceremony around the tree, just like they did around the stone. This is what happens with the harbingers. They make them into symbols. They call this one the tree of hope. They pronounce these kind of vows over it, and then they perform this without having no idea what they did, and it goes even higher and even more kind of specific and mind blowing, because the next thing and the next harbinger, the eighth harbinger, we could just touch on some of the things, a little bit of what's in the book, but the eighth harbinger is the harbinger of the vow, and that is the vow itself. In ancient Israel, when this happened, it's the leaders who had to have proclaimed this vow, because only if they did does it affect the course and represents the nation of defiance. So the vow had to have been made by the leaders of Israel, and back then the capital was Samaria, so it would have done in the capital city. So the eighth harbinger is the harbinger of the vow itself, that a leader of the land has to make the actual vow, a vow of defiance from the capital city publicly. And could this happen? What would this be in America? Because it would have to be an American leader to do this. And what American leader in his right mind is going to pronounce a pronouncement of judgment on the nation? Because that's what this is. It's pronouncing judgment. Actually, in ancient Israel, this sealed the course to judgment. So it's an ominous thing. But who would do it? Nobody would do it if they knew what they were doing.
Right.
But 3 years after 9/11, on the very anniversary of 9/11, American leader, very prominent, running for vice president, Democrat John Edwards, gets up to speak in the capital city at a congressional caucus gathering, and he gets up and he says, today, September 11th, we have a word here now, and then he begins to proclaim, to utter the ancient vow of Israel, the vow of judgment, word for word. He is making the vow of ancient Israel, their leaders. He's making now America's vow, which he starts saying, the bricks have fallen, but we will rebuild. He speaks of the tree. In fact, he not only does that, first of all, you got to remember, this is out of 30,000 verses in the Bible, and he thinks he's giving a word of encouragement. He has no idea he is pronouncing judgment on America. He's identifying it as the nation under judgment, and he's linking it to 9/11. Nobody knows what they're doing, but it's happening exact. And he does the whole speech is all built around Isaiah 9:10. He builds, and he says, we're putting up the cedars, we're putting up the stones, we're doing all this. He has no idea what he's doing, but the vow is spoken. And, it goes even more, because when you go back to the day of 9/11, or the next day, you find something incredibly significant and eerie, and that is the ninth harbinger is the prophecy, and that is the vow is spoken, like we saw, by a leader, but it's spoken prophetically. It's spoken before things come to pass, and it's spoken as it becomes a matter of national record, which is what happened in ancient Israel. And so what happens? The very day after 9/11, America has to make its response to 9/11 before the world. And the Congress gathers on Capitol Hill, and on Capitol Hill they choose. So it's very significant. They're going to give the response. They choose a man, or the man chosen is the Senate Majority Leader to give the response of the nation. It's the Democratic leader, Tom Daschle. He gets to the Senate floor that morning. He presents America's response to 9/11, and at the pinnacle of his speech, he doesn't finish before he says, at the end of his speech, he says, there is a word from Isaiah that I think speaks to all of us at times like this. He thinks he's going to inspire them. He has no idea what he's about to do. Now, from Capitol Hill, matter of congressional record, the American leader representing the Senate and the nation, he begins to vow the ancient vow of judgment.
Jonathan, I'm going to stop you right there because we're getting close to the end of this. I want you to quickly, once again, give us your website so how they can find out more information about your ministry as well.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, all right, to get the book, you can get it anywhere from Amazon to CBD, Barnes & Noble, everywhere, Christian bookstores, everywhere. To get the teachings behind it, the full revelation, our website for that is theharbingerwebsite.com. Easy to remember, it's theharbingerwebsite.com. And the ministry to get in touch is hopeoftheworld.com or hopeoftheworld.org. messianic.org.
Jonathan, we're going to have you on our next show as well to continue this. Is America going on that path down to destruction? This goes over Republican and Democratic parties, presidents. We're going to be looking at that next week. I want to encourage you to go to our website, RabbiScott.com. You can re-listen and re-watch this on our website, also at our YouTube site, The Messianic Hour, all one word on YouTube. Go check that out and other broadcasts that we have. I want to encourage you to also remember we are a listener-supported show, so go to our website, Rabbi Scott, for more information. Until next week, this is Rabbi Scott saying shalom and pray for the peace of Jerusalem.